So let me get this straight. It's a video game based on an anime where two females fight each other and one of them has a weapon that is half a giant red scissor? Well, okay then.
Now that's comedy.
Thanks to the people over at PQube, I was able to get a review copy of this game. And man, I was so looking forward to this. For context, Kill la Kill was an original anime released a few years ago that was really popular. Gee, I wonder why. It was created by the same team that made two of my other favorite shows, and naturally, I loved the heck out of this one. Now, the simple premise is that it's an action battle anime with over-the-top hyped up fights, featuring crazy weapons and fighting styles. See the giant red scissor blade I showed before, or the man that has keyboards all over his body. Now after this, a lot of people were saying, you know what? This would make a great video game. But this was the time when anime games weren't really a thing worldwide. All we had was the Metal Gear Rising team saying they would love to make a game with this IP, but still nothing. I mean nothing. Like there was no sign that anyone was even using the IP for something. But then, out of the blue, in the midst of anime video game overload, we get Kill la Kill the game. If.
What is the world?
Now, the very first thing you'll notice when you start the game is that you can skip all of the intro credits.
Arc system works. Trigger A+ game framework. Kill.
Thanks, mysterious voice.
Kill. We want.
So getting into it, the only mode you have at the start is Story Mode. Well, let's head on there, shall we? Okay, well, this is, interesting. So, the Story Mode just kinda starts in the middle of the anime.
Say what?
I will mention that the game kinda says, you know, you should kind of have watched the anime beforehand, as the Story Mode glides over a lot of things from the anime to get to its own original story. Oh, there is a glossary thing that does explain key words and characters, but honestly, I do not see how someone who has never watched the anime would be able to understand why these half-naked characters are running around. But don't worry, I'll try to do my best for you.
Satsuki runs into an unexpected roadblock. Ryuko Matoi.
Also, yes, they do say Goku a lot.
Goku.
Unlike traditional elections, you will not choose someone else to represent you.
Oh, and yeah, this is actually pretty cool. They got the full dub cast back for the game, which is a pretty rare feat, especially for any non-Dragon Ball Z video game.
Goku.
But even though I did watch the anime subbed, I am aware of how popular the dub is, judging from the views on this video I keep seeing getting recommended to me every single year. And after playing the game with English, I can honestly say, I think it won me over. Yes, the game has an amazing dub.
You!
Say what?
With that though, I will say that some of the lines don't exactly sync up with a lot of the mouth flaps, as most of the time, the line is over but there goes those flaps, flapping away. And in addition to this, I did have a few gripes with the subtitles, as sometimes during the story mode, they would just flicker on and off randomly, or have these weird spacing issues. It's not really a big deal, but when you notice it once, you can't stop noticing it. And plus, sometimes the dub actors just say different things to what's on the subtitles.
Jeez.
Okay, so the little plot I can give you is that this girl, Ryuko Matoi, wants to know who killed her dad, and the one who seemingly knows the answer is the leader of the school, Satsuki.
You gonna tell me you killed my dad, or do I have to beat it out of you?
You do realize she's like 500 miles away, right?
No.
Now the story works in chapters and it's not that long, depending on how good you are at the game, with each chapter having a fight and then a cutscene animated in engine replicating the anime, with some new stuff thrown in. You first play through it as Satsuki because yes, she is apparently the main character now, and I know a lot of people who will be happy to hear that.
Yes, milady.
And while she's trying to defeat Ryuko, we of course get the tutorial.
They can also be used to thank you, Lady Satsuki.
And well, after finishing her mode, you get to do it again with Ryuko from her point of view. And I will say, playing it back to back kinda felt a bit repetitive, as they did repeat a few of the cutscenes that you already saw before in the first route. But I do recommend playing through both routes first, however, since after that, you then unlock all the other modes and characters. So you have the usual versus mode, where you can match up with the computer or other players online. Yeah, no, that ain't happening.
For real?
Guess it's computer time. And to get into the combat, which I will say is one of the more easier ones to get into for a fighting game. Now I know I've never really shown that I'm a fighting game pro, because I'm not, but that doesn't stop me trying to get into them because, you know, they usually have good character designs, and that's no different here. Now the final roster you get is actually pretty small compared to other similar games, and some would say that is a downside, but I think it's actually a plus, because nearly all characters play completely differently from each other. So you have the usual sword user types with Ryuko and Satsuki, which by the way, dual wielding Satsuki is so good, I love her so much, she can chop me up anytime.
You are a complete disappointment.
Then you got the floaty umbrella girl, the kid who watched Naruto in high school, the dude who is really into bondage, the ninja turtle in a mech, was also very broken, music girl who instantly gets points for how amazing her alternate skin is, and MILF of Destruction. Now every single one of these characters do play differently to each other with their own move sets. Like some will be better for long range, some close, one will be slow but powerful, others fast but weak, and so on. It's fun trying them all out and seeing which one works best for you, but we know who I picked. On second thought? On third thought? Now for the actual combat, and the term here is arena fighter, being that it is in 3D but the camera isn't locked onto you, as sometimes it's behind and other times you look at it. You attack with a square for close range, triangle for long, and circle to break an enemy's guard move. Now yes, as a noob at these games, the combat is actually very beginner friendly compared to most other fighting games, and I can see fans who want to try the game for the IP and the original story not having too much trouble on the lower difficulties. But don't fret, you pro players. Some characters have so much more mechanics to them, some with their own sub-menus, that if you put the time into it, it can be rewarding to master. Now, the gimmick of sorts with this game is the bloody Vala system. As with attacks or damages to you, you build this bar. When halfway, you can do a special short, long, or break move. And they all are different for each character, some getting their own mini cutscene events, which adds to that Kill la Kill anime flair. However, if you press R1 and L1, you do this burst of energy, and if it hits the opponent, the Vala event starts. This sends both players at each other, while a rock paper scissors style minigame comes up. Each button either heals you, gives you more damage, or are more special, and the one you pick has to beat the opponent's choice. If wrong, you take damage, if tied, nothing happens, but if you win, the Vala goes up and you do it again, with another leading it to max level. I honestly found this incredibly hard to pick the right one, as I kept losing nearly every single time. I guess you're meant to assume, oh, the opponent has low health, so they will pick recover, which means I should counter that. But then they can be like big brain plays and counter your counter. It's like an actual anime chess battle that you must win in 3 seconds. Now if you somehow get max Vala, you get to unleash a crazy over-the-top insta-kill move that looks so good in motion. So then that's pretty much the versus mode, where you can also match against people online, casually or ranked, but well, you know.
Jeez.
Then you have the other modes like training, which is the usual standard in fighting games. There's these two other modes being survival and covers challenge. The latter is a horde mode where you either defeat 100 floating Clothios quickly, or see how many you can defeat in a minute or an endless run. These can be interesting as you have to use different moves to defeat many enemies quickly, but it can be a bit repetitive after a while. The other mode is survival, which has you on 1 life versing enemies that increase in difficulty over the matches. It starts extremely easy but ramps up over time, and I'm kinda proud I made it this far considering how bad I am at these anime games. So close to that magic number which would have been perfect for this kind of game.
Ass up!
But a few things to note with these modes. I don't know why, but the square button in Versus that changes your outfits, where you get new color combinations for the characters, for whatever reason, it's changed in these modes, meaning I couldn't see any way to customize my character in the modes, which is probably why I didn't stick around here too long. Maybe this can be fixed in a patch? And secondly, I just want to say, without spoilers, but in the story there are at least 4 different character versions to the fighters you have. Now 2 of them you never see again apart from the story, and 2 others you only see the CPU control in the survival mode. Now I'm just wondering, why aren't you able to choose them in Versus mode? Because honestly, 2 of them are my favorite designs in the whole game. I guess maybe because they are too strong and they would be broken online, but as a fan of the anime, it still would have been nice to mess around with them in Versus or training, because the models, voices, animations are all there. Fingers crossed that this can be patched in, because even though I said the roster limit is pretty good, and there are still 2 more characters free at launch as DLC, I just really want my cool character designs, okay?
Ass up!
And with that you get the rewards mode.
Repeat, bomber incoming.
So playing most of the other modes in the game, you get some little currency, and you can use these to unlock bonus things. First you have the Diorama Mode, which lets you create your own scenes with the character models, and to do different poses or expressions, you spend currency. It's fun for a little bit, but I will say, it was kinda hard maneuvering things as the UI blocked half of the screen, and you can't move things with it there. Like you move a little, hide the UI, check if it's correct, bring up the UI, move it again, and so on. It just felt a little clunky. Then you have things like the previously mentioned glossary with all the key terms. Then the anime cutscenes to watch again from the story mode, and all the music used in the game. Then finally, you can unlock the voice lines of the characters to listen to. So with all that, as you can see, it's
very expensive.
Now I don't know if it's due to me being offline, but just doing the story mode versing CPU and the other modes, I had nowhere near enough credits to buy even half of the rewards. I just want to mention that to anyone looking to get this offline single player only, because I can imagine that will be the case for a lot of people, for one reason or another.
Ass up!
I'm just not sure if playing online is the main way to get money, otherwise you will be grinding a lot in the other modes. And it's quite a shame, because some of the voice lines are bonus clips from the voice actors after the recording sessions, and they are so amazing!
You are truly a badass! Can I say ass? Will you bleep that when Nui say ass? It means you're truly, well, an awesome poop head!
We.
And that should cover most of what this game is about. It's honestly one of the better anime fighting games out there, because I know there have been some low quality ones being released recently. As a huge fan of the IP, it felt so reassuring to know that this game was made by fans of the game, for us fans all around the world, complete with its own original story, replications of favourite scenes from the anime, voice cast returning for the dub, which by the way, Japanese voices are there for all you weebs. Even playing through the story, the game just felt like a kill the video game. Everything was done to make the anime feel present in all aspects of it, which can also be a downside. If you've never watched the anime, I do not think this game would be for you. The story assumes you know who the characters are and what is going on, and I would honestly say, if you are interested, watch the anime first, then this game afterwards, to get the most out of it. And even if you aren't big into fighting games, but you did love the anime, it is pretty beginner friendly, meaning going through the original story shouldn't be too hard on the lower difficulties. And anyway, it was finally so good to revisit these characters after so long.
You need a pep talk from me? Get up. Get out there.
Wake up, get up there!
Trojan, RamZaes, Magnum, Sheik,